My question is, who is this healthy for?
Yeah, it's a good question.
You know, we we see all sides of it, from the recruiting companies to employment boost who does, outplacement when people get laid off, and resume writing. We see all sides of the story. And who is this healthy for right now? It's easy to get a job because there's a lot of job openings, but I feel like everyone I know that's a manager, an executive, or a business owner is they're all struggling to hire. They're understaffed. It's even our hospital systems, our restaurants, everywhere, which means a lot of people are taking on additional stress and more work. They're overworked. So it might be good for the job seeker. Is it good for anybody else right now is the question.
I mean, no matter what business owner you talk to, they are struggling on getting staff. Whether you're a medical office, food industry, manufacturing, supply chain, everyone is in desperate mode for talent, and it's not even top talent, just any talent.
But and
So
that's good.
This headline is just, to me, it's your question is spot on. It's like, who is this healthy for?
Well, I mean, how many people do you know, not even business wise, Dennis, just personally, that I'm thinking about the people in my own circle who tends to be executives and business owners, that there's a lot of people they would like to fire right now. But they're like, I gotta put up with this person's crap. They're not nice to the staff, they're not nice to customers, they're calling off often, and I'm not in the position to let them go. And they know that. And then now that people understand that companies are short on staff, they start seeing how much they can get away with. But then they're like, well, I can't let these people go because then I'll have nobody. So I keep looking at this job market. I see these news headlines, and it's like, why do we keep wanting to push this narrative that things are so good and so healthy when there's nobody I know in the real world that's saying that right now?
Yeah. So let's talk about that a little bit. Imagine being a business owner, which you are, and we've been blessed to having a great crew with us. But as you mentioned, your circle. Imagine having to keep individuals that you don't want to have on your team. How healthy is that? That's interrupting probably everyone else's productivity. Morale is probably down because there's folks on the team that are not capable of meeting expectations, and it's affecting other departments. I mean, all the way trickle down effect. Yeah, I don't see that as healthy, and there's really nothing they can do about it. It's just whoever can get through this period is hopefully going to be stronger at the end.
I'm thankful our companies, we got a great crew. I got a lot of friends in like these Fortune 500s, Fortune 100s that they're not having such a fun time right now. And then when you get in the actual manufacturing companies who always struggle because no one wants to work in manufacturing, it's tough for them. So I keep looking at, when you hear these stories from Fortune 100, Fortune 500 managers and executives and manufacturing, any industrial company basically say these types of things, and I'm like, man, someone just got to pull on the thread one more time, and this whole thing's going to unravel. And while it might be great for a job seeker to bounce around and try to, get more money and all that stuff right now, it's not good for the companies. The turnover is not going to be good for the companies. And then for everyone that's short staffed, I just saw a thing on like YouTube. I think New York Times did it about how understaffed hospitals are with nurses and the amount of pressure it puts on them. When you add all that up, it's, who is this good for other than the person trying to find the job right now? It seems to be terrible once you actually get the job, and it's also terrible for the company who's, short staffed. And I don't know where we go from here other than we're trying to measure these numbers and saying it's healthy. But if you go talk to business owners or executives or people in HR, which is what we do across a half a dozen brands every day, all day, no one would agree with this. I, it's I feel like the news has this narrative they want to push. Okay, and you see that at Daggerfin, right? Your experience in PR says when a journalist starts writing something, if you send in a quote that goes against their narrative, they won't publish it,
Right.
right? Like,
Right.
the easiest way to get a quote in a PR is to tell the journalist what they want to hear, which kind of goes against journalism standards, I guess. But and this is how this like narrative's controlled. So all day long we see on the news and the media that everything's okay because the top of the article title's already written before they start. The economy's okay, and then they go seek out comments and quotes from people saying that economy's okay, and then they publish that. But I know from just my own circle, none of that really matches up right now. The only thing I can say is, yeah, it's probably a good time to be a job seeker. There's a lot of opportunities out there. It doesn't seem like it's very healthy for the companies that are understaffed, that are having to pay tremendously higher wages to get people, that it's more difficult to manage people at the moment. Who is this good for?
I think the issue with a headline like this, James, is that it's a one-sided statistic. So unemployment rate looks at the number of people that are, I suppose, looking for a job, but that want a job. What we should do, if you really want a balanced look, is to look at things like understaffing rates at the corporate level. Because what happens, I think, is that you get an economy where the snapshot says, okay, it's healthy because we're under 4% unemployment or whatever it is. And at the decision-making level, because quits are so high and because turnover is like a big risk, companies aren't able to make this forward-looking decisions, because you can't make it, like a hospital, for example, can't make a forward-looking decision on staffing levels because they're always at risk of losing people to any kind of shock to whatever, the economy, shock to whatever happens in labor. And if companies can't make forward-looking decisions, then you start to get hiccups like you're seeing now with Peloton. I think I read a headline this morning that was like Glossier is laying off a bunch of people, because you try and make forward decisions that are healthy for the company. Like, okay, we need to staff to X level, but you can't do it. And if you do it, then you run the risk of ruining your company in the future because you're overstaffed for demand levels. So it's just a dangerous place where we look at a one-sided statistic, tell everybody that everything is fine, and not show the other side of the equation, which is companies are fighting, one, to stay profitable, for one, just to make money, and then if they are profitable today, making decisions for the future that may or may not pay off. And I think it's just a dangerous place to be.
And these things also, everyone always expects, like, why people look at what's going on with the economy, inflation, and why hasn't the stock market crashed, and why we haven't gone into recession. Things always take a while. We saw cracks probably in 2006 that would have led us to believe something was going to happen with the housing market crash. Well, it took 2 years. And there's always a delayed effect. We see things going on and we expect tomorrow we're going to wake up and the economy's going to fall apart. No, it takes months. It might take 12 months. It might take 18 months. The long-term toll of this is the company starts incurring these massive expenses and, paying for more talent that is often less productive because everyone's fighting for the really productive, great people. There's only so many out there. And then you start overpaying for that middle pack of people. Well, that takes its toll on profits at some point, and then reinvestment suffers. And then things start to slow down, and the company goes, I'm paying this person how much? And, I know this because we saw this probably around 2001 when the market crashed. We saw it again 2008. You had these people that they needed someone, so they paid that salary for the time being. But they were the first people to get cut when things slowed down. So I kind of see we're going in this like boom and bust cycle right now. Where right now, for job applicants, things are booming. You can find the job you want. You can probably name your price. But that's now. And I think when things slow down, someone's going to go, well, they're really an $80,000 person, and I had to pay them $110,000. And now that things are slowing down, you start looking at, well, I need a strong, team around us to get through this. And you start looking at, this person's probably making 25,000 more than they should have. Well, then the more layoffs start hitting because they start thinking, well, now I can get someone probably for 75. Why am I paying this person 110? Well, we've seen that in 2008. We've seen this story before where we go on these boom and bust cycles. Let's just say, I don't even know where we're at right now, but let's say we're at 3.9% unemployment. Rewind back in time, and I'm guessing it's probably 2019, 2018, something like that was the last time we were 3.9. If you match that up, like whatever the number is now, to the last time we were at that same number, do you remember being that short staffed at that point in time?
The clear answer would be no. There's nothing fundamental about the economy is in a stronger position than it was when we were probably last at this rate.
Let's just say it was, 2019, we were at 3.9%. I think definitely there was a lot of jobs available, but were we this under? We weren't even close. So just trying to use those two numbers, saying, oh, hey, we're at 3.9% unemployment. Everything's great. Great for who? Like, other than the job seeker right now, which is eventually probably going to come back to hurt them as well.
Yeah, agreed. I think if you look at the market from the job candidate side, you're typically taking a short-term view of things is my kind of immediate reaction. Because over the long term, you need the business side, the corporation side to be healthy in order to justify or at least incentivize, higher wages, et cetera, et cetera. If the one side of the equation that I suppose you need a balance between the two sides, right? But you can't just be so one-sided on the job candidate side that it's so healthy for them and then expect things to be like long-term healthy for the economy as a whole.
It's not, because even when we do the coaching, like career coaching and stuff at Employment Boost, we talk about tenure, and you're not saying you got to stay somewhere for 10 years or even 5 years. Like, trying to stay somewhere 3 years matters. And this is why. People get mad when they say the company won't invest in me. It's like, well, if you have a whole history of changing jobs every year, they're like, why do I want to invest in you? You're only going to be here 9 more months. Right. But you saw a lot of the people like Google and Apple and Tesla. There's people that have been around since, for a decade. And you got to imagine Google would not be where Google is if their entire staff turned over 18 months. Imagine 2 years from now, there'd be nobody here that knew anything about what we did 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how it would be impossible to run a business that way? From developing new products and life cycles and customers, you can't run a business where every 2 years the entire staff is brand new. Dennis, how would that work in sports? Why do expansion teams never seem to do that well? Because they don't have any history, right?
Right. History, usually location is an issue. It's not a major metro. Those are the two main things.
But imagine if your whole team turned over every 2 years and it was just all new players, and you're not used to people's patterns and personalities and behaviors and talents and skills and their pluses and their minuses. How many of those teams make it to a championship?
It's tough to say. I mean, everything needs a balance in life, whether it's a team, relationship. It's just, to have a fresh start every year, it's challenging.
You got to have someone stick around that has, some functional knowledge of what's going on. So again, it's back to, it might be healthy for the job seeker. I don't know how healthy it is for long-term career building and the health of corporations, which, as much as people like to hate the corporations, if they don't keep succeeding and creating jobs and, paying taxes and reinvesting, like, GM's putting $7 billion in the state of Michigan right now. If they don't keep doing this stuff, everything falls apart. So it's one of those things that it can't be lopsided. At some point it does hurt business, and we're already seeing a lot of earnings misses, right, Kane?
100%. We're people, like, the profitability of companies is massive, especially the ones that are B2B or SaaS driven, but everything else is struggling right now. I just wanted to say, based on what you guys just talked about there, that the long-term welfare or healthiness of a workforce is tied to tenure. And so you guys both run companies. If you can be sure that you've got workers that are going to stick around for a long time, it incentivizes management and the company to invest in benefits, invest in ways that actually help the well-being of the workers long term. What incentive is there for the company to, have a generous 401k match, for example, or have generous health insurance if you know that you're like people are going to be around for 12 months, 18 months, and then leave? So it's just this bad cycle. The other side of it is, we're with this setup right now, we're catalyzing an entire generation of individuals who, I think of Bob Iger, the Disney CEO, the former Disney CEO. His entire career was with one company. And we're incentivizing people, like you said, that are never going to have that depth of knowledge to where they can run corporations like Disney at the level that a Bob Iger can, because he understands all the dynamics related to that one company. If you're a mercenary and you're jumping around all the time, I just think that it's not healthy for the worker long term, and then it's not healthy for companies because they're not incentivized to then reinvest back into their workforce.
I mean, there's multiple things. There is, I have, the people I know that are executives, managers at large corporations. If they know that the person that joins them, they know they're only going to stay a year, they're not going to really give them much of their own personal time and mentorship. It's, why do I want to invest in someone that's already got one foot out the door? I think we do that with friendships. We do that in relationships. Anytime we know that people don't have both feet in, why do you give them your time? And I think you lack that even, personal development over the years, because no one wants to give you the time because you don't want to stick around for a minute. I'm not saying you got to stick around your whole career, Kane. Just, why do I want to stick around and mentor you and give you the playbook that I have and transfer all this knowledge when I know you're already looking for the next thing? And then you don't get that development. So you do see a lot of people that bounce around, and by the time they're 38 or 40, their career starts to fall. We talked about that in another episode. Likewise, why does a company want to invest in you if they know you're going to leave? No one stays forever. But if you're going to come in and do some work for 14 months and leave, why does the company want to make a big investment in you? It just doesn't make any sense. But going back to your Disney reference, to be there 30 years and know every bit of inner workings of all parts of Disney, this is why I'm going to ask you the next question. What do you think the percentages of people at the executive level that get promoted from within?
That's probably, my guess is pretty high. Dennis might know better than I do.
Well, I don't know the exact number, but I would guess it's on the higher end as well. But there are also a lot of companies out there that feel, or they haven't developed their own folks to achieve that next level, and they tend to want somebody that could come in with a fresh idea. I wish I had that specific stat, but I don't.
I mean, I could make a number up, but I don't know either. But I do remember reading recently, and I don't want to say it's some random number, but I mentioned that because I read something recently about how many people are promoted from within. And it's a fairly large number because they know the inner workings of the company. They know the people. They know the sales cycles. They know the business. A lot of times when companies are in a turnaround situation, then you need someone from the outside who doesn't have, they're just coming in to just be hard charging, new vision. So that's an example when you see an outside hire. Other times is, a lot of times the people that were coming up as directors or VPs, they've not been there very long. They're new people themselves. So you want to promote from within, but they don't have that 10, 12, 15-year history you might want. So then you go to the outside. But when you look at those stories on how, the person started off at the bottom and then became CEO, there's a lot of those stories out there because they knew everything about the business. It's back to the Robert Greene stuff on mastery. Do you ever really focus on something and just master that skill? It's hard to do when you change jobs every 12 months. So it hurts the individual from a career standpoint. And it's also hard for companies to try to grow and run a business and stay competitive when you have people leaving every 12 months. Again, you don't got to listen to what I say. Go onto LinkedIn and start looking at anyone that's a VP or SVP at Google and look at how long they've been there. I don't care. People say that Google's got one of the shortest tenures in the world and people stay, on average 12 months. I don't care about that stat. Go look at the people who are actually running the company, the VPs, 10 years, 12 years, 15 years. Let's stop analyzing what everyone does and let's analyze what the very successful do. You seem to get a little more benefit from that anyway.
Amen to that.
Hey man, we get our career advice from LinkedIn these days and TikTok, and it's like I never want to listen to people. My whole life, in my growing up, I was surrounded by people with no money because we had no money, and you always have people with no money trying to tell you how to get rich. And it's like, well, you ain't got no money. Why are you trying to tell me what to do? When I was trying to build a career and build my companies, I usually looked at people that I looked at the executives and what their behavior was, what their moves they made, and same thing with business owners. I didn't want to listen to people that had poor careers or business owners that were broke. Like, I went and followed what the successful people did. It seems like common sense to me, but again, like, we're in a world where we'll listen to a TikTok video and make a major career decision. So, hey, Kane, didn't you get some stock advice from TikTok? How'd that work out?
No comment.
Down 20% year to date. So,
It's, buy high, sell low. That's the advice.
That's 2022. Oh, man. Anyways, that's all I got.
Sounds good.
I got you.